The Marvel's executive producer says the movie was specifically designed so that, quote, women from all walks of life could relate to it. Let's get into this here. Mary Livanos, the executive producer for the upcoming The Marvels film, recently spoke with Total Film about the movie, and she said the Avengers movies are these epic conclusions to chapters of storytelling, whereas this is a team-up within the narrative that we didn't necessarily expect for Marvel. Usually you wait for characters to show up all together in Avengers movies. I think that it's absolutely untrue. We've seen multiple team-up movies throughout the past of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that were not Avengers movies. Obviously, you have the Guardians of the Galaxy movie in 2014. You have Captain America Civil War, which basically was a mini Avengers film. There's lots of different examples where characters show up that in other films that aren't maybe like connected to the film that they're connected to. So like again, Iron Man showing up in a Captain America movie in Captain America Civil War. You've got Iron Man showing up in Spider-Man films, etc. that aren't Avengers movies. So you've got an entire Illuminati team showing up in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Lots of different examples where there's lots of team ups and you don't have them in Avengers film. So I don't know what she's thinking about here. Maybe she's thinking about the original Phase 1 and not thinking about everything that they've done since then. But there's lots of movies that have team-ups that aren't Avengers movies. Nevertheless, she goes on and says, we were excited to design a team-up featuring characters that women from all walks of life could relate to. So unfortunately, she didn't really elaborate on that in the interview with Total Film, but seems to me this is very what we expect from Marvel Studios, from the MSheU. They're totally trying to cater to a female audience. They are trying to pander to that audience, and they're saying that they designed this film specifically to appeal to women from all walks of life. Now, there's nothing wrong, I think, from creating a film that maybe women would relate to. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the issue is that they are taking what I would call a male-dominated property, which Captain Marvel had been since the 1960s. They obviously replaced the original Captain Marvel, Mar-Vell, the Kree warrior, with Carol Danvers, who was a supporting character to Mar-Vell in the original comics. They gender swapped Mar-Vell in the original Captain Marvel film. They're gender swapping an obscure villain in this film for whatever reason, I guess just to gender swap them. Who knows? It doesn't make any sense. Why not just create a new female Kree warrior instead of creating a gender-swapped version of a male warrior? Then you also have the introduction of Kamala Khan, which to me hints that we're going to get intersectional feminism in here, because it's not just about centering white women or whatever intersectional feminism criticizes feminism for. And then obviously you're going to have Teyonah Parris, who probably should be actually there because she was an original Captain Marvel created in the 70s, eventually becomes leader of the Avengers, etc., etc. So I don't have any problems with creating a movie based on designed for females or whatever. The issue is, I think we have a history that Marvel isn't creating movies to aim at females. They're creating movies that are predominantly supposed to be aimed at men, and then they are trying to subvert them and aim them at women. And this is the whole like Disney operation, same thing with Star Wars. And just to kind of prove this point, let's look at this data here from the original Captain Marvel film in 2019. This is over at Variety.com. You see here that males accounted for 55% of audiences. So even with Captain Marvel 2019, predominantly men driving the box office there. So as much as Marvel Studios is saying they're designing films for women, the core of their audience is still men. So I don't know why they wouldn't start designing movies for men. Maybe because they don't have any men that can actually make movies for men. And that's why you always get the gender swaps, you get the MSheU, you get the female replacement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everything we've seen for the past like 5-6 years post Avengers Infinity War. And then here, 75% of moviegoers were over the age of 25. That's for Captain Marvel. So again, those were the demographics for 2019, but now they are trying to design this film specifically for women. And I think what she's really saying is that it's intersectional feminism. That's what she means by women from all walks of life, rather than what that actually means, because I think these people are snakes. I don't think they actually mean what they say. I think they talk out of both sides of their tongue. They are literally the representation of Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings, and we need a Gandalf figure out there and telling them, keep your forked tongue behind your mouth. But that is what to expect from the Marvels. Has some little bit more information in this article about maybe why they're being their powers are being swapped and stuff. And she tries, interestingly, this is what I found really interesting, is she points to the original comics in an interview with Entertainment Weekly. EW reported this. She said, Levinos notes that the idea of location swapping harkens back to early Captain Marvel comics from the 1960s, where Marvel, the first Captain Marvel, and human Rick Jones would swap places using magical Kree bracelets called negabands. So it's interesting that she's telling Entertainment Weekly that they are adapting a comic from the 1960s, 70s that was specifically targeted primarily towards boys and young men, is now somehow being used or designed to create a movie around females, which I think that indeed shows that what she's saying really isn't true, and this stuff should be for boys, but they've decided men, and they've decided to basically cut that out and try and design it for females. And again, I don't have any problems creating movies for females. It's when you have stuff like Marvel that is obviously for boys and men, and then trying to make it designed for females.
Subscribe for more.